14 to 62.80. With the Wall Street Business Report, I'm John Scott.
News and analysis at townhall.com.
On-Point weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Thunderstorms possible until about midnight or so. The low temperature dips down to 73. Tomorrow it's more the same, more clouds and sunshine. A high of 93 and a 40% chance of some afternoon and evening downpours. For Saturday, same pattern. Not bad early, but the storms in the afternoon. I'm Cal Moss with your On-Point local weather.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, fireplaces. Summer sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point. This is The Point. Make The Point.
This is Sports Talk with Phil Kornblut and Chris Bergen. Sports Talk is heard across the state on radio affiliates of the Sports Talk Media Network and is streaming live on SportsTalkSC.com, as well as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. The South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number to call in is 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now, here are Phil and Chris with tonight's edition of Sports Talk.
And away we go, my friends, on a Thursday evening, normally a big Thursday, but it's the week after July 4th, and as Smitty, Josh, and I have found out, painfully so, it is a tough week in sports. Unless we want to break down, guys, and maybe we have ignored our responsibilities as proper journalists and sports reporters, we have not broken down the championships of Wimbledon. We could spend the next 2 hours, if you like, talking about the championships of Wimbledon. Talk some tennis. Yeah, I'm hearing crickets in the background.
Well, so. Chris, here, let me say this. On a serious note, I will not make a crack because I think tennis is a great sport, and Wimbledon is a tremendous event. I mean, it's the masters of the tennis world. And what history, and when you do, turn it on about this time, quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals, you can see the intensity there and the crowd and the great job that they do with the broadcast and all the people involved with it. But to me, and you correct me if I'm wrong, you grew up in a similar era to me, but past the days of McEnroe, Connors, Boris Becker, Yvonne Lendl, and then on the women's side through Martina Navratilova to Chris Evert, and then the Williams sisters era, I'm just not sure there's enough personalities in tennis to elevate it beyond the game itself. And I just think it's fallen woefully behind in the United States. It's kind of like in the 70s, horse racing, tennis, and boxing were, championship boxing, prize fighting were three of the biggest things in the world. And I don't think any of those things move the needle on shows like ours in 2025.
I have a theory on this, and I think it's pretty well founded. The reason, especially men's tennis, because you touched on all the superstars on the men's side, especially in the 70s and 80s, United States men's tennis. I think it is the Tiger Woods effect. And the reason I say that, I think at one point in time, tennis of the country club sports was about as popular as golf was for younger players. Guys growing up, 8, 9, 10 years old, getting into their formative years, what sport did they want to play outside of football, basketball, and baseball? I think as many played tennis that ultimately went on to play golf. I think all of that changed when Tiger Woods burst onto the scene. And he took all of those players because, take a Jordan Spieth, a Ricky Fowler, just some of the young players that were growing up as Tiger Woods was in his heyday. You could have easily seen them on the tennis court as well. But I think they all gravitated to golf because Tiger made golf cool. And there were after Jimmy Connors and John McEnroe retired, I don't think there were any tennis players that made tennis cool in comparison to Tiger. And I think that's the reason that men's tennis, especially in the United States, not overseas, certainly not in the former Soviet republics and in current Russia. They love tennis over there and they play it extremely well. But I think here in the United States, all the players, the young players that we would have had on the tennis circuit have gravitated over to golf. Now, over the next 15, 20 years, does that shift back and we get more of a balance between the two? I don't know. But I thoroughly believe that Tiger Woods had a great impact, not just on golf in the United States, but I think he also had an impact, not his fault, just because of his popularity, on tennis in the United States.
Oh, I would agree with that. I think that's a great point. Now, you did say after McEnroe and Connors, were there any personalities? There was one window, Andre Agassi, where he
Andy
was
Roddick, maybe. Yeah.
Well, and Roddick was great, and Sampras was even better. Agassi was probably not as good as either of those two, but he was inspirational as a bad boy of tennis. That he bucked the trends. He didn't want to wear white at Wimbledon. Mm-hmm. He wanted to grow his hair out. He dated Brooke Shields. He was living the life we all wanted to live. Good for him. Things are going well. Did he marry and divorce her? I don't know, but they all do well. All the tennis players. If you want to check that out, I'm sure there's a website dedicated to that because they've done well. The top tennis players. But I think you're right. I think the Tiger Woods effect had a tremendous domino effect on just sports in general. I think you're right about that. But so you said, almost jokingly, should we cover Wimbledon? I'm telling you, if this is when this show started, right, 30 years ago, you wouldn't have been able to not talk Wimbledon. We all would have been watching it.
Sure.
But the American viewership has really changed, and it goes through, it ebbs and flows because you did have the Williams sisters. But to me, tennis is such a hyper country club sport, and it is so specialized. Like if you don't have, do you have a personal coach? No, well then quit because you're not going to even play collegiate tennis. It's just a tiny fraction. It's like figure skating, right? Or gymnastics. It's just a tiny sliver, and we kind of watch it every once in a long while. But it isn't. I'm old enough. I know that we probably have young listeners right now, and you can chime in 888-898-2525. Josh is young. He may say tennis. I've never watched tennis in my life, but Chris, you and I are old enough to remember it was like you couldn't go anywhere. People were talking Marvin Hagler versus Thomas Hearns and Jimmy Connors versus John McEnroe. And I'm not joking. That would have been the lead in sports. Not even above Major League Baseball, even above the NFL, whatever was going on. Certainly above recruiting in football, which nobody even knew about. So it is gone. I know the quarterfinals are upon us. Chris, I don't know them. So we can't cover it because I don't know who they are. Just it's changed.
Yeah. Actually, the women's final is set. And Sabalenka, the number one player in the world, she's not in it. That's all I know. And on the men's side, I couldn't tell you. I think Novak Djokovic is still playing. But the men's game has gotten so boring, and this will be the final comments on tennis probably ever on Sports Talk, but the men's game to me has gotten so boring because all it is serve. And if by just happenstance, the guy who's trying to return the serve actually hits it back in play, he's so far out of position that it's just an easy drop shot or a slam over to the other side of the net, and it's over. The women's game actually has some serve and volley to it because they don't hit it 195 miles per hour. But the men's game is all about the serve. And it's remarkable to me that any of their games ever end because I don't know how you break somebody on their serve.
Hard to do. And that is your Wimbledon update presented by your local country club. Remember, from your local country club, wherever you go, we're looking down our nose at you.
Indeed. All right, 888-898-2525 on this Thursday. You're welcome to join us. You can also text us anytime. We'll have plenty of time for that as the evening moves along at 803-900-4847. We've had to adjust some things on the fly. Mike is going to join us, Mike Morgan, in his normal Thursday spot. But not only is he Morgan on the move around the country, he's also on the move within the barriers of Sports Talk because we're going to bring him up here in about 2 or 3 minutes. So we'll get to a break here in just a second. Did want to mention there was one big recruiting story out today. Clemson landed another quarterback commitment from the state of Georgia, a 2027 quarterback, Kareem Hughley, who is 5'11", 190 pounds from Gainesville High School, announced his pledge via social media to the Tigers a bit earlier today. And if you say, Gainesville, Georgia. Where have I heard that before in Clemson? Well, that's the same high school that produced Deshaun Watson. and turned him into a prolific passer, not just in Georgia State football history, but also with the Clemson Tigers. So, Smitty, I'm guessing, if I'm Dabo Swinney and I had luck at that high school before, and then I also got Trevor Lawrence out of the state of Georgia, I'm going to continue until somebody proves me wrong to recruit quarterbacks out of the state of Georgia.
Yeah, it's been a really nice little honey hole there for Clemson, especially for Dabo Swinney. Arguably the two best quarterbacks in Clemson history. Apologies to those that are Homer Jordan fans. Yes, he won a championship. Apologies to my friends in Orangeburg and Woody Dantzler, who was a tremendous talent. But I think it's certainly, in terms of statistically and then what was accomplished from a championship level, Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence, about as good as it gets. And maybe, I don't know, maybe Kareem Hughley is going to follow in those footsteps and have tremendous success. We won't find out until 2027, but that's why we cover it, right? So we can look ahead.
He's the second Georgia player to commit to the Tigers for the 27 class. Of course, Max Brown announced his commitment a bit earlier, the younger brother of Clemson linebacker Sammy Brown. Quick timeout. We're back with Mike Morgan on Sports Talk.
This is Major Billy Downer with the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources. Boating season is right around the corner here in the Palmetto State. As you get ready for this spring and summer, make sure your registration sticker is up to date and you have a copy of your registration card on board your boat. For more information on boat registration and answers to common questions, visit dnr.sc.gov.
There's a lot of things we take for granted in our lives. Your home's AC will run cool. Your drive-through coffee will be hot, and the car will start when it's time to take your kids to school. It's when things don't go as planned that you start thinking about who to call and where to turn. The good thing is, you can prepare for life's most difficult days by calling the Larry Lucas Agency today. Larry is a State Farm agent that has been taking care of people across South Carolina for more than 2 decades. You probably have insurance, but switching is easy, and bundling can save you hundreds or more. Most importantly, the Larry Lucas Agency can help you choose the protection you want at the price you want. All backed by South Carolina's #1 home and auto insurance company. Visit LarryLucasAgency.com today or give Larry a call at 803-799-1998. Like a good neighbor, Larry Lucas State Farm is there.
Off and running on a big Thursday edition of Sports Talk Media Network. Chris Bergen over here in the PD. Matt Smith down in Georgetown, and Josh Cohen, the plumber, taking care of business in our Columbia studios. You can be a part of the program at 888-898-2525. But it's our pleasure to welcome back on a Thursday. Normally having a little bit later on in the program, but as his title is, Mike Morgan is always on the move, and that means we've moved him up a bit. Mike's sponsored by Play It Again Sports in Harbison, where Chris Mosley and his friendly team are your go-to for all things sporting goods. Buy, sell, or trade, they've got it all.
Sponsored by Mid-State Roofing, South Carolina's leading roofer for over 30 years, protecting what matters most.
On this Thursday evening, Mike, first off, how are you, sir?
I'm great, guys. How are you?
We're doing very well. Hey, the boss is out of town. We can do whatever we want. It's been fun.
Yeah, I mean, a little less of the structure that Sports Talk has had for some 137 years now, and maybe a little less recruiting talk, and some more just give and take. It's football season, man. I got to tell you, watching some of the Big 12 media days, I know that's not a conference that is number one in this part of the country, but maybe I have a soft spot in my heart for that league because I called games in that league for a few years with Fox, and I like the fact that they got torpedoed like so many leagues have been torpedoed, not named the SEC and the Big Ten, and unlike the Pac with terrible leadership, I think the Big 12 did a really good job of salvaging the league and making sure that it's still competitive, it's still intriguing. it's the most unpredictable conference in college football. I mean, I could name a half a dozen teams that I think have a legit chance of winning it. You can never say that in the SEC or the Big Ten. I mean, they're so top-heavy. As much as we like to use cliches like anybody can win it, we know better. And the SEC Media Days are going to be next week. Obviously, we're all going to be hyper-focused on that. But let's be honest. I mean, it's going to be the focus is going to be the same three teams competing for the title: Texas, Georgia, and Alabama. Maybe if they have that once in every 5 or 6 years that they do in Baton Rouge, maybe it's LSU. And then programs like Ole Miss, Missouri, last year, of course, South Carolina. Great stories. Do we really think they have a chance of winning the conference crown? Probably not. But the other good thing about all that is you don't have to win the SEC to make it to the playoff, which is why I've always been an expansionist. And we saw last year, Clemson gets in. Of course, they get the auto bid by winning the ACC, but Carolina could easily have gotten in, even at 9-3, and it gives programs a sense of hope that otherwise they probably wouldn't have for yet another 100 years.
Mike, I can't follow you on this because I'm boycotting the Big 12 Media Days as soon as they ended the media preseason poll. I just wasn't going to do that. What was
well? Yeah, I mean, I think it's silly too. The poll was not the reason why, Arizona State didn't get the respect it deserved. Polls mean nothing, but I do think, by the same token, they don't mean anything when they're there, so therefore I don't think they do a whole lot of harm. I also think, honestly, I don't care who predicted what. I've participated in many of those media votes. The coaches' votes, coaches always just they're very predictable. They play it safe. You kind of know where they're coming. And the media polls, I mean, half the people that fill those in aren't really paying a whole lot of attention. Then you've got always like the guy that's going to be kind of creative or lack thereof, I would say lack of creativity, but trying to be cute. But look at me, I picked Vanderbilt to win it all. I don't really care about them one way or another. We have Phil Steele on the podcast every year, JC and Morgan, and I've liked Phil. I've had him on my shows for over 20 years, and I think he's terrific. But when people get upset about a Phil Steele prediction, for example, he's not particularly high on Carolina this year. He thinks they're going to take a step back, and he's not alone. It doesn't mean that I'm all of a sudden going to think that Phil Steele is not smart or I'm not going to like him. Phil's strength is I'm going to collect more information than anybody. I'm going to put it in my computer and spit something out. That's logic to me. I can live with that. If he's wrong, I don't care. I don't buy his magazine for his predictions. I don't care what anybody predicts. I just want information, intelligent discussion, and conversation. And now's the time of year to have that in full force.
And I would think, Mike, too, and I just picked up my copy of his magazine yesterday, and I think in terms of doing what you do and what I do and what Smitty does, you almost have to have a resource manual like that anymore because of the transfer portal. I'm not sure where all the players that were in one spot, where they are this year. So it's a handy device to have for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you almost have to have it now just to keep up with everything. I mean, we're really, the NFL model is now in college football, and I think it's going to become more so because if you read Ross Dellinger's piece here today, if you go by where the wind is blowing, where most of these presidents, ADs, coaches, where they're leaning, I still think we're headed toward collective bargaining. And when that happens, that's going to be yet another major shift in all of this. We don't have time to get in all the iterations of that, but just because the House settlement came and went, and we have, the $20.5 million number that everybody knows, we are still a long ways away from having continuity. I mean, we've now got, I think, one of the most fascinating programs this year in the sport, speaking of the Big 12, will be Texas Tech. Because Texas Tech is basically saying, hey, we've got all the money in the world. We've got our sugar daddy, our billionaire oil guy right there in that Odessa region of the state. And we're going to buy $1 million pitcher in softball and nearly win a national title. We're going to buy a bunch of basketball players and nearly get to a Final Four. And we're going to buy a bunch of football players to the tune of the number one portal class in the country, to where we'll see how Coach McGuire and company do. But it's concerning, because if a program can still outspend everybody by leaps and bounds, it's an obvious advantage-disadvantage situation. And I don't think we've gone away from that yet. I don't buy the whole, well, everybody's going to be on a level playing field now, and all the football programs are going to spend roughly $15 million, and there'll be legitimate NIL deals, and the power programs will not have a financial advantage. I just don't buy into that.
Mike Morgan on the move every Thursday here on Sports Talk. And Mike, sticking with the Big 12, and you talked about Texas Tech and their sugar daddy. If I'm not mistaken, they took him to Big 12 Media Days to give you an idea of just how important he is, not just to them, but maybe to the future of college athletics.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. They did. In fact, a good friend of mine who's one of my top producers on NFL games, he also produces a Big 12 show, and they had him on. And one of the guys that we have routinely on the Inside the Gamecock show is John Strickland, the former offensive lineman. They were actually roommates at some of the old high school football camps back in the day. So, I mean, John's been very successful in his line of work, but I always kid with him, like, you sure you don't want to, like, partner up with that guy on something? He's seems to be pretty well off and very generous at the same time. That guy literally went to Big 12 Media Days, and I'll tell you what, from what I understand, the stations and the media members were lining up to talk to him, because what he symbolizes is much bigger than just Texas Tech, because every school has one. I'll tell you a quick story. Years ago, I did an Oklahoma State football game, and we meet with the coaches on Friday, and that day, we're walking through the media room to get to Mike Gundy's office, and I see some players doing interviews, and I see this old man, and I said, well, who was that old man that all these reporters are surrounding? Oh, that's T. Boone Pickens.
Yeah,
T. Boone Pickens, the billionaire who gave Oklahoma State, still might give, I don't know if he's still alive or not. I can't keep up with all these rich guys, but he literally would have his own separate press conference and his own little media station. So yeah, I mean, that's where we are. I mean, how do you think Miami got Cam Ward last year? Everybody wanted him. They outbid him. They've got a billionaire booster over there down in South Florida that offered up more money than Florida State did. Now, Florida State went 2-10. Miami was within a eyelash of the college football playoff. That's the difference. So this part of the equation, as ugly and as kind of seedy as it feels, it's not going anywhere in the near future.
All right, Mike, bigger event in the city of Atlanta next week. Major League Baseball All-Star Game or SEC Media Days?
Yeah, and I think Beyonce's doing a concert as well.
My gosh.
If that's your bag, yeah. I don't know if she's doing it just for ticket sales, or did a political party cut her another check. I'm not sure how that all works, but no, it's going to be massive. Atlanta is a great town because of the sports interest diversity. It's a Braves town. It's an NFL town, but I still maintain it's the mecca of college football, where if you go to a sports bar on a given Saturday, there's a Tennessee club, an Auburn club, a Bama club, a Florida club, and oh, by the way, the Georgia Bulldogs play there. I still think the talk of the SEC right now is going to dominate. For example, Sports Talk Radio, which I do a little bit of. There's only so much you can say about an All-Star game. Like, it's great the city's going to have it. They should have had it a few years ago. they got hoodwinked by a lady who's still out there running her mouth, who doesn't seem to know a whole lot but is really good at lying. So it's a great event for the city, and the business owners that were hurt a few years ago by it being taken away, hopefully they'll be rewarded this time out and get the proper financial benefits of having the game there. But at the end of the day, the Braves have been a major disappointment. The All-Star game is kind of like an exhibition at this point. It's nice, it's fun, it's cool. But college football talk right now, I think, it really begins with SEC Media Days, and we just can't wait for it.
Oh, we're looking forward to it as well. Mike, do you have a few extra minutes you could hang with us through the break here?
Sure.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, Mike.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, great. I wanted to ask you about the All-Star game and the use of the automatic balls and strikes challenge. We'll get into that with Mike Morgan after this on Sports Talk.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Thunderstorms possible until about midnight or so. The low temperature dips down to 73. Tomorrow it's more the same, more clouds and sunshine. A high of 93 and a 40% chance of some afternoon and evening downpours. For Saturday, same pattern. Not bad early, but the storms in the afternoon. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
It's painting season in the Midlands, and Southern Palmetto Painting and Renovation sets the tone for inspired living. Watch your home change from ordinary to outstanding with colors that liven every wall and craftsmanship you can trust. Michael and his team are fully licensed, bonded, and insured. They care for every detail inside and out of your home. Let's give your home the style and care it deserves. Call 922-5615. Southern Palmetto Painting and Renovations, where every project reflects pride.
Away from with SRN News, I'm Keith Peters in Washington. Officials at the Comfort Volunteer Fire Department triggered a flood warning siren last week when the Guadalupe River began to swell. If residents in the more than 2,200 person unincorporated community hadn't seen weather alerts on their phones or heard firefighters who went to each street yelling for people to begin evacuating, they had been trained to know the sirens meant they needed to leave immediately. The Los Angeles Fire Department says 31 construction workers are safely out of an industrial tunnel that partially collapsed. The workers on Wednesday night were 400 feet underground and near the coast, as much as 6 miles away from the only entrance. Some had to scramble over a tall mound of debris to squeeze out. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 192 points. More details at srnnews.com.
Nobody plans for a plumbing problem. They come unannounced and usually at a very inconvenient time. Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning is your trusted ally. They recognize just how vulnerable a customer is at this time, and they want to help. They have well-trained plumbers who are there to make a difference when you need it most. I've experienced this. They're knowledgeable about their craft. They're not coming to your house to pitch new products. If something is broken, they'll give you a price to fix it if it's possible, or a price to replace it if necessary. Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning is also locally owned and operated, or I simply wouldn't endorse them. Josh and his team prioritize customer service above everything else. They handle every issue with care and precision. Those are not just words. I've had Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning out to my home. They back up those words with their actions. If you have a crisis, get some peace of mind. Online, you find them at franklinplumbing.sc.com, or you call 799-2222. That's 799-2222. I'm absolutely positive they will make whatever is wrong right again. Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning.
Palmetto State Armory is on a mission of making freedom available to all Americans. And with retail stores across South Carolina and a fully stocked online shop, we're delivering freedom coast to coast. PSA is an American-made and veteran-owned firearms company built for those who believe in the Second Amendment and the strength of self-reliance. From suppressors, firearms, ammo, and accessories to fishing gear and apparel, we're more than a gun company. We're a movement. Visit us in store or online at palmettostatearmory.com. Palmetto State Armory, American-made for life.
Life is not a straight line. No matter how hard you try to stick to the path, sometimes you have to take a detour. Miss a turn or maybe even start over. Relax, we get it. Life happens, and your credit score shouldn't define your future. That's why Founders offers opportunity so you can pursue your financial goals. Not just for people with perfect credit scores, but for real people with real stories. At Founders, we know how to look beyond the credit score by listening, understanding, and believing in people and second chances. Because here, you're more than a number. You're a parent, a student, a dreamer, a doer whose story is still being written. When you're ready to pursue your next financial goal, stop by a Founders Federal Credit Union near you or visit foundersfcu.com/loans to see how we can build your next chapter together. Terms and conditions apply. Membership qualification required. Federally insured by the NCUA.
Escape the hustle and bustle of everyday life with Spa MD, your sanctuary of rejuvenation. Feel the tension melt away as our expert team guides you through your customized wellness journey. From soothing massages to revitalizing treatments, we promise a remarkable experience that leaves you feeling renewed and empowered. Discover the calm within every visit. Reach out at 251-9400 or online at visitspamd.com to explore your options. Your oasis of tranquility awaits.
Back we are on Sports Talk Media Network on a fine Thursday evening with Chris Smitty and the Plumber. We've got the freshman question of the night a little bit later in the show. We'll get some text messages as well, plus your phone calls at 888-898-2525. Mike Morgan has been kind enough to stick around with us for a couple of extra minutes after his normal departure time ran by. We delayed his flight for another 5 or so minutes. So, Mike, as I mentioned, a busy week coming up in Atlanta with SEC Media Days, the All-Star Game as well. But I wanted to get your take, and Smitty and I are going to chat about this a little bit later on, but Major League Baseball announcing it is going to use the automatic balls and strikes challenge system during the All-Star Game, something I think they are already using in minor league baseball. Is it going to work at the professional level, and how are the umpires going to react to this?
Well, I think now the umpires have never been more exposed. I mean, there are social media accounts, and I know this because I follow a couple of them, that are dedicated to showing every pitch that an umpire misses behind home plate, and who they are, who misses the most, and then there they are on full display, and it's a really bad look. I think this is kind of overdue. It's going to happen. I saw it in spring training. I thought it was done fairly well. We know the technology is there. Whether or not the umpires like it or not, I don't think it really matters at this point, because at the end of the day, the umpires have never made more money. They have pretty good job security. I mean, there's some guys that are horrifically bad at the major league level. One that comes to mind that when I used to do Braves games with Don Sutton, he would literally just snap his pencil in two every time he would botch a call. By the end of the game, we had to order new pencils. It's overdue. It needs to be done. Look, calling balls and strikes behind home plate is not easy, because the strike zone is not the same for Jose Altuve as it is for Aaron Judge. That's a difference of about 14 inches in height. You know, the corners are the corners. And the other thing is, guys now, I mean, just have nasty, nasty stuff, where if you're trying to call like a Josh Hader wipeout slider and trying to see when it actually clipped the corner, it's not that easy. And so I wouldn't mind seeing umpires have a little help. I don't look at it as this is the way to really screw over the umpires. I look at it as it's a tough job. They need help. Why not give it to them?
So before we cut you loose, do you go to SEC Media Days? Are you going to be over there this week? What are your plans with all of this coming to Atlanta next week?
This is my birthday week coming up, so I don't know.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. This started, it used to be this would be later in the year. So the plan used to be I would go on vacation for my birthday and then come back and go straight to media days and do a week on Radio Row. Now, of course, I don't need to go on Radio Row, and you can watch all the coverage on the SEC network, and that's usually what I do. I might swing by for a day when I am in town, but for me, it's less about being there, and it's more about seeing the coverage. And just one thing I'll say, whether you like the Feinbaum show or not, this week he will get some really good guests to talk about a number of things. Mm-hmm. And when I say that, I don't mean the coaches and the players. With all due respect, I don't get a whole lot from that. I've done many, many of those interviews on Radio Row, and I can tell you I've learned next to nothing doing them. I get it. You have to do it. It's nice, and every now and then you get a Lane Kiffin that gives you a nice little sound bite. But for the most part, you're not learning anything. I'll learn more when I hear, again, like a Ross Dellinger talk about something, or a Pete Thamel, or some of the people Andy Staples, some of the people that I like that cover the sport. Those are the interviews I look forward to on media days, and that's the week that everybody descends upon this event, where you can access them all in that same period. Is Kornblut going to be there? Is he covering
He
this thing?
absolutely is. I think he would cut off his arm before he'd miss SEC and ACC media days.
Yeah. Well, he should. I mean, that's good. He needs to be there. Is he going to be by himself, or are any of you guys helping him out there?
No, he'll be by himself next week. As a matter of fact, Smitty's going to be in Greenville on a Wednesday for the coaches and charity event, and I'm going to be at Clemson on Tuesday, and then I'm headed off to New Orleans the following week for Sunbelt Media Days. So.
Oh, my goodness. You guys are covering. I like it, man. You're everywhere. You're an empire. And, no, that's good stuff. And I'm just glad, like I said, we can get to the point where we can start really feeling it. And I've always thought media days, I mean, we've all already been talking college football, year-round sport for those of us in the South, but I think media days is when it really starts getting serious, and you can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and before you know it, we'll be talking about actual games.
Looking forward to it as always. 2 times the fun here with Mike Morgan. Double your pleasure with him tonight, Mike. We appreciate the extra time, extra segment tonight. Have a great weekend. Happy birthday to you, sir. You've never looked better. 21 looks good on you.
Yeah, well, I attribute that all to heavy makeup and non-HD programming. I don't know. No, I appreciate it. You guys do a great job. Have a terrific weekend, and look forward to talking to you again soon.
Sounds good, Mike. Thank you. It's Mike Morgan. Morgan on the move here on Sports Talk. Normally about a 7:05 guest for us on a Thursday, and he'll spend about 20 minutes or so with us. Had to get him a little bit earlier, but it was nice of him to stick around for the additional segment. And that opens up the phone lines for you at 888-898-2525. We'll hit some other news notes coming up in a few moments. But, Smitty, I wanted to dovetail to get your take, as you being the resident baseball experts, on the automated ball strike system that Mike was touching on that will be utilized at the All-Star game next week in Atlanta. Do you like this idea? Are you like Mike? It's actually a tool that could help the umpires as opposed to expose the umpires?
Well, I've always believed that. And I've always been a proponent of, look, not necessarily mass instant replay across sports. But I think, if you look at basketball officials, I think a lot of basketball officials have taken the right attitude toward it. You see them over there when they go and they look, because they know what the world already knows, which is if LeBron James is driving the basket and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander tips the ball and both of them go after it, it's almost impossible when 2 athletes of that size and speed are knocking the ball around 7-8 feet in the air to tell which one of them touched it last all the time, 100% of the time, in the final 2 minutes of an NBA playoff game. That's an impossible task, and I think the idea should be just what Mike said. Josh Hader throws a wipeout slider that may have caught the corner, at 94, or maybe it didn't. Maybe it broke early this time. Well, you can't expect an umpire to get that right all the time. The same reason the batter didn't swing. For the same reason, I'm not sure. And the catcher's not 100% sure. So we have a chance with modern technology to get it right. Now, a couple of things I would like to bring up about this particular system. Number one, it has to be fast, because this is happening in the middle of an at-bat. So they have to absolutely streamline it. Has to happen quickly. If you don't have this, taken care of from a technological standpoint where it can be cut and dried and taken care of in 10 to 15 seconds, then it's not ready. Then it's got to be baked a little bit more. And secondly, it's so interesting to me that it is, as you said, it can only be triggered by the catcher, the pitcher, or the batter in question. Well, if they're wrong, the team loses its challenge. So this is not the manager making a decision for his team. This could be a batter in a slump, striking out on the third pitch with nobody on base and saying, nope, that pitch was low. I know it. I'm sure of it. And if he's wrong, then you don't have that challenge later on in a 3-2 game with the bases loaded. So I think that's an aspect that's very interesting, is actually the strategy that boils down all the way. You have to think so quickly. Do you want to use a challenge? Sometimes you see a batter get in an argument with an umpire in the second or third inning. And how, are they thinking, no, I know I'm right here. I know I'm right. Of course they are. They wouldn't have this argument. But is it worth, what's the difference between exchanging words with an umpire and going all the way to challenge a call, which could mean your team no longer has that challenge in its back pocket? You could be in the 10th inning for all we know later. So that to me was interesting.
That is a fascinating point, and it's one that I don't think even the most seasoned either pitcher, catcher, or batter at the major league level, and we're talking about the elite of the elite, I don't think in a split second they're going to be able to worry and measure, all right, was that close enough that he's already ready to throw again. I've lost that opportunity. I think you're going to see it happen probably more times than it should for that reason. Because you're going to lose a challenge if you're wrong early in the game that you may really want back later on. And people, fans like us, will be able to go back, well, why did they challenge that pitch in the second inning? Didn't mean that much. Boy, it'd be nice to have that challenge right now in the bottom of the ninth, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, as we talk through this, it's also possible that as soon as this becomes, right now it's just going to happen in the All-Star game, but we also have technology within the players, right, where the catcher is able to hear what the manager wants them to say and all the things like that, or want them to do. I'm sure you could create hand signals quickly that the third base coach is going to tell the batter, yeah, go ahead and challenge. Almost like green light, right? Green light, just like stealing second. They'll flash across the chest. Feel free, to use that challenge if you need to. If you feel like you need to, or give him the stop sign. Hey, no one challenge. I think that's what you have to do. I think a manager has to talk to the pitcher, the catcher, and the batter before each half inning and say, look, no matter how egregious, we're not going to use this challenge in the third inning. This is going to be something once we get into the bullpens that we may want to use. We're not doing it now.
No, I think that's what they've got to have, don't they? They have to have that kind of discussion. If it's a 7-0 game already in the third inning, don't worry about it. It's not that important. But if it's a 2-1 game, bases loaded with 2 outs, we're going to challenge anything that you think is close.
Yeah. That's it. I think that's what you have to do. And then you leave it up to the players. It's almost like giving a point guard instructions. All right, we're using our last time out now with 2 minutes left, and you give the point guard instructions about what to do in each of these scenarios. If we're up by 2 or if we're down by 3 and then we want to foul, all those things, and then you leave it on the players. The managers won't be heavily involved with this.
But the fascinating thing, and this is why I think it can only work at the major league level, because, again, you're talking about the best players in the world, but they're going to have to, first off, remember what the sign is. Am I supposed to bunt or swing away? And
there is no bunt sign. Chris, there's no bunt sign.
True. In Major League Baseball, you're right. Then in a split second, they are also going to have to remember, all right, did Snicker tell me we're going to challenge this inning or no? I can't remember. It's going to be fascinating to watch this, because I think ultimately it is going to happen in Major League Baseball just like everything else. They experiment with, and I think this will be great to watch next Tuesday in the All-Star game. And if you're unfamiliar, what's going to happen is when a review is initiated, and basically the batter would just tap his batting helmet on top of his batting helmet. I guess the catcher can do the same thing, or the pitcher, and that will initiate the review, and then an animated replay of the pitch will be shown on the scoreboard, and the home plate umpire will either uphold the call or overturn it. So everybody in the stadium will be able to see what he's watching. And the automatic balls and strikes uses the Hawkeye system technology, which tracks the pitch trajectory and location in relation to the strike zone, providing an instant assessment, which can be relayed to the home plate umpire, according to ESPN.com. So that'll be fun to watch. But
I was going to say, they nicknamed the system Eric Gregg. That's who's – it's the ghost of Eric Gregg overseeing the balls and the strikes.
I think it will be fascinating watching. I think fans will actually enjoy this. I really do. Because what else we argue about to the degree that we argue about balls and strikes and how poor a umpire's strike zone is? It's the only sport I can think of, Smitty, where there is so much judgment and every umpire has his own quote-unquote strike zone, whereas the rule book in Major League Baseball and amateur baseball and high school baseball and everywhere else has the strike zone perfectly laid out. You're supposed to go, shoulders to the armpits to the kneecaps and the width of the plate. That's supposed to be universal, right?
All right, here are the three things, Chris, I think that make fans the angriest. All right? I think it's a block call going against a home ACC team on a block
Duke,
charge
North
play.
Carolina. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Duke, North Carolina, a block charge going against the home team. Number two, play calling for your favorite football team. I know people who can complain about that every play. Every play, they've run the wrong play. They've done it 82 times in a row. They've run the wrong play. And number three is, yes, balls and strikes, especially in Major League Baseball. Now, I'm interested in this. I think the umpiring has gotten better over the years, and I think it's due in part to what we talked about earlier, which is attitude. I think I always thought NFL officiating was the best because it seemed to me – now, look, we're always looking at this from the outside, and then you're trying to extrapolate things. I've always felt college football officiating was just terrible, and I think the rules make it more difficult. I think every year there's an emphasis they come out with, and it's not until the end of the year, like targeting. Targeting was called wrong like every time for 2 years. I thought that was too much to put on those officials on the field. I always thought NFL officials, it seemed to me, were the best at keeping the game, almost keeping the game moving, not calling holding on every call. And even when they miss a call, it seemed like it wasn't a big kerfuffle that they had missed a call. They just they said, well, let's review it. Let's find out, because it's hard. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that was a late hit or not. Maybe it was. Maybe it wasn't. Did he get 2 feet down? It's a hard thing to do. I think I have always said that. My problem with officiating or umpiring has always been the same. It has not been the missed calls. It is the arrogance around the missed calls. Don't be so certain about it. And that's why I like instant replay sometimes is, hey, this is the biggest moment of your life. You might have sneezed. You might have blinked. I don't know, but I hate for the Super Bowl or the World Series or the college football playoffs to be decided on one guy who's trying to run and he calls pass interference on a guy and it's a complete whiff. Let's fix it. So you don't have to have instant replay on every play. Just make it available on the most important plays of the season, and let's just get it right and everybody move on with their lives.
And the good thing about this, and then we'll move on, it appears this is not going to take any time at all. 10 to 15 seconds, and the decision will be made, and we'll move on. So as Major League Baseball and collegiate baseball tries to speed up the game, I don't think this is going to be a drag on the length of the game. All right, sign up for a quick timeout. Plenty more to come. 888-898-2525. We'll delve into some of your text messages, some more of the news notes of the day on the way next here on Sports Talk.
When I grew up, I want to be a nurse. I want to be an engineer. I want to be a teacher.
There's never been a better time to start making their dreams come true. Future Scholar, South Carolina's 529 college savings plan, makes it easy to save for their future education. Contributions are tax deductible, earnings are tax-free, and you can start saving right now with any amount. Go to futurescholar.com today to discover the smart, easy way to save for college. That's futurescholar.com.
One lottery ticket makes a big difference for our state students. And when I say big, I mean bigger than jackpot big. Since 2002, South Carolina students have benefited from more than $6 billion in lottery-funded scholarships and grants, including the Life, Hope, and Palmetto Fellow Scholarships. With every lottery play, you're supporting our students, and that adds up in a big way. That's why education is our middle name. Learn more at sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
George Bryan here with Tsunami Bar Sports and some great spring golf news. If you're ready to mash your tater, I think you need a Laginator. And if you want to get more speed and crack the whip, it's time for a mini stick. So TsunamiBarSports.com, GB10 to get 10% off the Laginator and the mini stick. That's TsunamiBarSports.com, GB10 for 10% off.
This is Larry Leitner, owner and founder of Midstate Roofing, and for nearly 30 years, we've continued to be the proven leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. Midstate Roofing's proven history is your assurance that our professionals at Midstate Roofing will provide the proper advice, service, and results to the needs of your facility in a manner both safe and pleasing to your operation. From high-rise to hospitals, manufacturing to industrial, Midstate Roofing designs and installs bonded systems with a protective guarantee that will keep your operation dry and running long into the future. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
And this is Blake Leitner, reminding you to protect that roof with a maintenance contract. Call me today at 803-356-1919 or online at midstateroofing.com. That's midstateroofing.com.
You'll speak to an on-call technician after hours or a Midstate Roofing staff member during hours at 803-356-1919 or online at midstateroofing.com. And as always, tell them Midstate Twins.
If you have a leak, let Midstate Roofing take a peek.
Caden Bodine, a bit earlier today, the catcher from Coastal Carolina, won the Johnny Bench Award as the nation's best catcher once again, and I don't think there's any big surprise there. We are efforting to try and get Caden on before the Major League Baseball draft comes our way next week. He might be interesting to watch. He and Cam Canarella, I would think, Smitty, are going to be the top two guys out of our state, or at least the first two guys out of South Carolina that are from college teams. Now, we may have some high school kids that end up going higher, but I think those are probably the two best options we have in terms of going fairly high in the amateur draft, don't you think?
Absolutely. They have all the tools that a scout would be looking for. I mean, Canarella's still slender, but they'll get him on a weight program too, and I'm sure they like everything he does, bat to ball in terms of what he's doing in the and he's got great instincts for the game, great instincts in center field, and everything he does in the batter's box. And Caden Bodine is almost a finished product right now. I as a catcher, I don't think it's going to be very long between he hears his name called in the Major League Baseball draft and then he's playing on a big league club, because he's got the tools to move up as a defensive player and be a second catcher behind a veteran very, very quickly. And he learned under a great one in Kevin Schnall. People may forget Schnall himself was a great catcher before he got into coaching. And that is why I expect Cade Bodine not just to be drafted pretty highly, but also I think his time in the minor leagues will be short, unless he's trapped in one of those franchises that is all set at catcher. But as you know, almost no one ever is. That's a position. It's the second fastest position to move up in the ranks from the minor leagues to the major leagues because of how short those guys' careers are.
Behind pitching?
Behind pitching, right? Sorry, I just said that. Yes, but
I know that.
Oh yeah, if you're a left-handed reliever, you're going to get to the big leagues. You're going to move up quickly. But yeah, catcher is the second best way to the big leagues. It's the second fastest.
And I would imagine being a switch hitting catcher helps even
more
more so.
Are you? I mean, the more you tell me about him, I mean, I saw him play, but the more you talk about him, the more you examine his numbers. He threw out 19 of 44 base runners. He's got all the tools offensively as well. And as I said, he also learned in a great environment under Kevin Schnall. And then he got the opportunity to catch and help make a good pitching staff into a great one this year. So I think, in other words, it's been the perfect breeding ground for Caden Bodine, and I hope he gets drafted by the right franchise that recognizes all those talents and tools.
Johnny Bench Award today to go along with his Gold Glove Award and also the Buster Posey Award for Caden Bodine. Back to Canarella for a moment, and this is interesting because I've watched some of the projections for him, And I would have thought at one point in time he was a no-doubt first-rounder, and I'm not sure that's necessarily going to be the case for him. And I wonder, Smitty, as you watched him play, we all see the dazzling defensive skills he has. He's as good a center fielder to go get a ball, and I hate to put him in this category, but almost like Andrew Jones used to be. I mean, if it's out there and I can catch it, Cam Canarella is going to. The problem I see in his game, though, is his power numbers. I mean, is that fair? Because he does not hit a lot of home runs. He gets on base a ton. But, a center fielder that gets on base a lot, that's almost a dime a dozen in the majors, isn't it?
Well, yes, but it's all about projections. So Canarella hit for more power earlier in his career, then suffered through some injuries. But the fact that getting on base is a skill and he's got it, I think you have to project with Canarella. You have to decide, you look at that frame and you say, okay, can he add muscle? And he probably wouldn't be a middle-of-the-lineup guy ever. That's okay. Can he add muscle? And does he project as a guy who can play center field, be an excellent defender, and one day hit seventh in a contending playoff lineup? Can he do that? Or potentially bat second? Because I don't know whatever has happened to his speed as well, but these are all things the scouts have to find out because he did not run the bases in terms of base stealing. That was not great this year, was caught 4 out of his 10 attempts. The base stealing is gone. You got to find out were the injuries the thing that just impacted his power and speed, and you've got to project a guy like that. And I think maybe those scouts, they find everything out about Cam Canarella and what he is neck up. I think they're going to find a guy who is going to project well and he can be a big leaguer one day.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, fireplaces. Summer sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. Authorities continue to search for survivors of deadly flooding in the Texas Hill Country. Andrews County Assistant Fire Marshal Jeremy Prophet says crews are taking turns searching for flood victims.
We have crews from Mexico here. We have crews from Canada that have come in and are assisting us. And every week it'll be cycling through. Every day we see cycles of different departments coming in.
Search crews and volunteers are continuing to scour miles along the Guadalupe River for the people still missing. The floods are now the deadliest from inland flooding in the U.S. since 1976. Texas isn't the only state dealing with deadly flooding. New Mexico officials are promising help for residents caught in flash flooding this week.
New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham says that with a federal disaster declaration, the state should get the help it needs following Tuesday's flash flooding that caused much destruction to the town of Ruidoso and killed 3 people. But the governor says there is federal money the community has never received.
That's $12 million. That helps us do all the rest of the levee work that really needed to be in place because of the amount of water and how fast it moves.
Audio courtesy of KOAT. I'm Donna Warder.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio says President Trump wants to see more progress in ending the Russia-Ukraine war.
He's disappointed and frustrated that there's not been more flexibility on the Russian side to bring about an end to this conflict. We hope that can change. And we're going to continue to stay involved where we see opportunities to make a difference.
On Wall Street, the Dow up by 192 points, the Nasdaq rose 19, the S&P advanced 17. More on these stories at townhall.com.
If you're living with pain, see how Relief Factor can help.
My back got injured very bad. I was off work for about a year. I heard about Relief Factor from my wife. I took it every day, 3 times a day for 3 weeks. Looked at her and I said, the pain is gone. And she said, I'm glad it helped. I said, no, you don't understand. It's gone.
Fight pain naturally with Relief Factor. Go to ReliefFactor.com and get your 3-week quick start today. Only $19.95.
Now there's a new way to take charge of your blood sugar. Introducing new Garlic Healthy Blood Sugar Formula from the makers of the nation's best-selling garlic supplement. New Garlic helps maintain healthy blood sugar levels with clinically supported levels of garlic, plus a custom blend of vitamins and minerals, and it's odor-free. Take charge of your blood sugar with New Garlic Healthy Blood Sugar Formula. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Use as directed.
Mortgage rates rise following a robust jobs report.
Mortgage buyer Freddie Mac says the average rate on a 30-year mortgage rose this week to 6.72%. Prior to this week, the average rate had declined 5 weeks in a row. This week's increase reflects a recent uptick in bond yields, which lenders use as a benchmark for pricing home loans. Home sales have remained sluggish this year as elevated mortgage rates and rising prices have frozen out many prospective home buyers. I'm Alex Vega.
President Trump is singling out Brazil for import taxes of 50%, citing its treatment of its former president Jair Bolsonaro. Trump has described Bolsonaro as a friend and hosted the former Brazilian president at Mar-a-Lago. Brazil's President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva said in a statement that Trump's tariff would trigger a retaliatory law. News and analysis at townhall.com. From Washington, I'm Keith Peters. A special
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Thunderstorms possible until about midnight or so. The low temperature dips down to 73. Tomorrow it's more the same, more clouds than sunshine, a high of 93 and a 40% chance of some afternoon and evening downpours. For Saturday, same pattern. Not bad early, but the storms in the afternoon. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, fireplaces. Summer sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point. This is The Point. Make the...
Welcome back to Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network. You can reach the guys with the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number, 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now back to Phil and Chris with the second hour of Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network.
Rolling into hour number 2 here on Sports Talk. Phil continuing to enjoy his vacation in the great beyond. So in his stead tonight, we've got Matt Smith with us once again down in Georgetown. Chris Bergen here in Sardis and back home in our Columbia studios. Waiting to take your phone calls. Josh Cohen, the plumber, who will get quizzed again tonight. Another edition of the Freshman Question of the Night coming up later on this hour. 888-898-2525. If you'd like to join us here on the program, you can also text us anytime at 803-900-4847. If you missed the opening hour of the program, caught up with Mike Morgan, had a double dose of Mike Morgan on the move. And, you know, it didn't occur to me, Smitty, until we were talking with Mike, how busy a week it's going to be in Atlanta next week with the SEC Media Days starting on Monday. Gamecocks will be going on Monday. We'll be there all week long, providing wall-to-wall coverage of SEC Media Days. Might have to have Corn slide over to Truist Park on Tuesday night to cover the All-Star game as well, if we were smart.
We
and
would
not
be.
too worried about what's going on Tuesday night.
Well, it depends on how many Yankees end up on the roster. And, of course, for those that follow our Twitter feed at SC Sports Now, you would have seen that DJ LeMahieu was designated for assignment. That is the erstwhile Yankees second baseman. And Corn felt the need that needed to be retweeted to everyone that's in this state.
There are a couple of truisms that Phil is never going to adjust to, being a fan of northern teams here in the South. 90% of us here in the state of South Carolina could not care any less about the New York Yankees unless they lose. It's about the only time we care. The majority of us are Braves fans. He's never going to understand that. Secondly, there are very few Packers fans down here. So I'll give him maybe the Celtics. I mean, they're a national brand, much like the Yankees are.
The Yankees are. I'd say the Yankees, the Packers, and the Celtics are all national brands. But it's just the idea that Phil feels the need that in the middle of the night, mind you, overnight, to retweet. Oh, well, everybody needs – hold on, let me see. All right, Lucas Malstedt is all-academic All-American from Clemson. Cam Canarella projected to go in the first round. And DJ LeMahieu was designated for assignment. Those are his tweets. That's what gets me. Like, if the Packers change beer vendors, he's going to retweet it to everybody in the state.
If they go from Budweiser to Coors Light, I mean, it is a big deal, right? I mean, you don't go from Bud to Coors Light lightly. Pardon the pun. Do you?
No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. Future sponsors of Sports Talk Media Network. No, you wouldn't do that.
Absolutely. Oh, and by the way, speaking of Yankees, and this is actually not a joking matter, but it is one that hits a little bit closer to home that Phil felt necessary to put up there as well. Former South Carolina pitcher Clark Smith is evidently on his way to have Tommy John surgery for the Yankees.
Yep.
So not good news there.
And that's legitimate, and that's a shame. And yeah, that's probably why he saw it. But DJ LeMahieu, unfortunately, 36 years old, he's had a hip impingement, and then he had a strained calf, and he can't. And the hit tool has pretty much abandoned him at this age, and it happens to everybody. So DJ LeMahieu won a batting title in both leagues, one for the Rockies, one for the Yankees, in the 2020 the COVID-19 shortened 2020 season, and that's a pretty big achievement. But I think he's near the end of the road. He may get picked up by somebody else, but the big days of DJ LeMahieu are behind him.
Always loved him in college because I felt like he was a perfect fit for LSU. LeMahieu has got to be playing baseball at LSU, right? I mean,
right, like Bobby Hebert.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
You can't have a French-sounding last name and not play for the Tigers.
Right, like a Devereaux. If you're a Devereaux.
Exactly.
Got to be
exactly right. All right, the reason I mentioned that 90% of the folks in the state of South Carolina are Braves fans because that other 10% not only encompasses New York Yankees fans, it also encompasses New York Mets fans as we head off to the phones and check in with Andy in Columbia on this fine Thursday evening. Andy, how are you, sir?
I don't think there's 10%. I don't think you can. There's probably 1% New York Met fans around here.
You may be the only Met fan in South Carolina.
I think there's one or two more. But Hernandez is moving to South Carolina. I still haven't found out where, but he is moving from Florida to South Carolina.
Oh, that's right. We debated whether or not he'd end up at Debbie Doo or down at Hilton Head. Yeah, I do remember this.
Yes, and corn. Let's all be realistic. When you grow up and your biggest sporting event that you participate in is putt-putt at south of the border, I mean, what do you know about sports teams?
No, he is very proud to mention when he was a fine, outstanding athlete at Latta High School, he did hit a home run in a game. Now, it was played at a municipal park where there's no fence, and he just knocked it far enough over everybody's head. By the time they ran it down, he had scored. But
can you? I'm gonna. That's a Paul Bunyan-like thing to do. Can you imagine how far you'd have to hit a baseball for Phil Kornblut to get around the bases?
I'll tell you what, can you imagine what was in the outfield trying to chase the ball down if Phil's can make it around the bases in the time?
Oh, and I'll say this. He also guarded Zam Frederick playing basketball. When he was on
he did not guard Zam Frederick.
He made him
stand in front of him.
It didn't go well. Yeah, okay. I throw the term guard around loosely. Okay.
Sure. He went to Frank McGuire's basketball camp when my brother went. And my brother used to always say Kornblut was the biggest klutz, if you know what a klutz is. That was out there and was a disgrace to the Jewish religion of playing basketball. And my brother used to always laugh about Phil.
All right. Well, let's not make this whole show about Phil because that would make him happy. So let's move on to something else.
We got 1 day and 50-odd minutes left of pure bliss. So let's quit talking about him before he comes back. Regarding the ABS thing, I'm all for it being constant. Put the earplug in the umpire's ear. Let him call it as the robot ump sees it, And, the truth is, you watch a baseball game on TV, and they got the strike zone right there. And you see what's going on. Every ball and strike. And these guys make up their own strike zone the way they want to make it up. And they can be calling it a high strike, a low strike, and ones that don't even get near the plate strikes. Who's that one guy's name that during the Braves, was like giving strikes, way back when?
That's Eric Gregg.
Eric Gregg.
Yeah.
I mean, why not do it? I mean, I know they say that there's a little bit of flaws to it. With as good as software is now, and as good as, AI, all this other stuff, and the way people can program, it's got to be able to be programmed that they can be much more consistent and much better off just using the ABS system, putting the plug in the guy's ears. I'll be honest with you, if the ABS system can call them safe and out at the plates and at the bases when they're stealing and when they're trying to get to first better than the umps, I'd rather go that way too. I mean, I'd rather see a robot out there than some of these umps, because I think some of these umps are useless. I mean, they make such terrible calls. It's unbelievable. I mean, I watch baseball nightly, and I see such terrible calls. And also getaway games. When these guys want to get out of there, they're calling all kinds of crazy pitches that have nothing to do with just because they're ready to go get on the road and get out of there.
So, Andy, would you be in favor of having totally robotic umpires, at least at home plate, as opposed to, the current setup with humans all the way around? I mean, use that system all the time to call balls and strikes?
That's what I just said. I'd rather see Rosie the robot from the Jetsons back there making the calls than some of these guys. I mean, I think it would be more consistent and there wouldn't be a problem. And like I said, we're seeing it on TV anyway. Right. They got the strike zone laid out for us. They're showing us exactly where the ball's crossing the plate and in the zone or out of the zone. And if it's, just clipping the zone or whatever, we're seeing it anyway. Why not go with it? I mean, is it that bad we're going to take that part of the human element out of it?
Well,
these guys are terrible.
Thank you so much, and we'll comment on this. Thank you so much, and enjoy the next, as you said, I guess you got 25 hours of Sports Talk without Corn, but get him back on Monday.
Well, I'm just suffering. My Mets are getting ready to drop a doubleheader today. So other than that, life is fine. You gentlemen have a great day. Enjoy the evening, and always enjoy when y'all are on. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Andy. Thank you, sir. 888-898-2525. So to follow up on his point, Smitty, as a batter, would you have a problem standing in at home plate with a robotic eye directly behind you over the catcher's shoulder?
Not too much. So I think what Andy really would be in favor of, because he said Rosie, the robot from the Jetsons, what you can do, and they do this in tennis, is essentially it's still being called by humans, but then they immediately can be overruled. They have access with near immediacy to what the correct call is. And that is, you still need human beings for a few reasons. For one, a guy, there's 2 strikes on the batter or 3 balls on the batter and somebody is stealing second base. The catcher and the batter and everyone needs to know immediately if it's a ball or a strike. They need to hear a voice tell them right away to know whether or not to throw the ball down to second. Things like that can happen. But what I do think, and they've done this, they've experimented with this, what you could have is something similar to what they do in tennis, which is like the K-zone. And it will tell the umpire in his ear whether it was a ball or a strike, and then the human can relay that information right away.
Yeah.
And have access to that. And I don't mind. I'll say this, however, about the bases. And this, we're really getting into the weeds, and I'll make it as quick as I can. I have seen some things happen that have been, say, overturned by replay that I thought was a bit of a miscarriage of justice, even though it was quote unquote the right call. Let me give you a quick example. I have seen on the base paths, especially at home plate. So now, because of some of the catcher's injuries, Buster Posey chief among them, blocking the plate is out, and you don't want to block the plate before the runner comes in to slide. But what can happen is the catcher, as he takes a throw, is so cognizant and so sensitive not to block the plate that he will have the ball beats the runner, and he will create a lane for the base runner, and so gingerly tag the base runner who is clearly going to be out, but the catcher kind of doesn't go get him because he doesn't want to be accused of blocking the plate, and so the guy ends up safe, and it was all caused because of the rule change. I've seen this on the bases as well, where a throw will beat a runner to third, and the third baseman is so concerned with being called for blocking the base that he'll tag the runner high because he doesn't want to be called for interference or blocking the plate or blocking third and obstruction. And I'm just telling you, I've seen things like this. Also in basketball, I have seen players knock the ball out of somebody else's hand. And this is hard to actually imagine and express in words, but if you can imagine, if I'm holding a basketball and, Chris, you come by and smack it out of my hands, in truth, usually the last thing it touches are my hands. But anybody that's ever played basketball knows, well, that should be out on you. You smacked it, but it slipped through my hands. And what could happen is, okay, well, I went back and reviewed it, and actually, Smitty, it's out on you. That seems kind of silly that it's out on me, even though I'm holding the ball firmly and you smack it, and it's just the physics of it. And these are just things I'm saying that I like it when human beings, almost like we need computers and this imagery, this slow motion to help humans, but I think we also need to keep the human element in to be an arbiter of the technology. I think there are times when the human element needs to come in, and there has to be an understanding. One more quick example: shortstop, second base turn in a double play. Now we make the second baseman and the shortstop always touch the bag. But if the guy is out by 20 feet and then he's running at you and he's going to spike you and there's going to be a collision, is it the worst thing in the world if they use the old neighborhood play and just roll around the bag to avoid the collision and just make the play? You have to allow, I think, human umpires to recognize there are times where the hard and fast rules need to be relaxed in order to properly adhere to the spirit of the game. I went a long way to say that. That's it. That's all. I've gone over time, but there are times I still think human officials and umpires are in need.
No, and Andy explained it really well. I think I was confused and didn't quite understand what he was touching on. And like your idea and his about, you can have the human umpire behind home plate, but have that pitch comm directly in his ear to help him out calling balls and strikes. And, another great example, and then we'll move on. If there were ever a place that you would never think that tradition would go away, Wimbledon has taken full advantage of electronic umpiring now because they've eliminated all the line judges this year for the tournament. And if it can work there, because they're using electronic line calling technology, if it can work at a place like that for the first time in 148 years, I think Major League Baseball is probably headed down that road too.
Yeah, and there's things that a ball hit down the line, right?
Sure.
I think you can have the technology that either a green light or a red light can pop up immediately, and that way the umpire doesn't have to make the call. You can have a laser make that call just as fast as a human could. So you're right. There are times you could use it, and then times that I think the humans need to be in charge. But on a line drive hit down the right field line, and the umpire is shielded for a moment, just a moment, by a fielder and can't see it, what's the harm in having a laser help him out? I don't think that would be injurious to the game and the spirit of the game. I think that would actually is a time when it could help the humans make the right call so we can all keep playing baseball and you don't have to stop and review the play.
No, good stuff there for sure. All right, 888-898-2525. If you'd like to follow Andy on the program, you're certainly welcome. Recruiting coming up just after 7:30. If you missed the beginning of the program, Clemson's gotten another big-time commitment, a quarterback in the 2027 class out of Gainesville, Georgia, home of Deshaun Watson. Give you all the details on that in Smitty's recruiting report. Plus, we've still got to get to the freshman question of the night, and Josh wants to talk EA Sports college football. Do that next here on Sports Talk.
Looking to make life simpler and save money? Make the smart move. Transfer your high interest balances to a Founders credit card and take advantage of our balance transfer rate as low as 2.99% APR. That's right, as low as 2.99% with no balance transfer fees. That means more breathing room for what matters, like taking that long-awaited vacation or finally getting ahead. Whether you're catching up or simply just want to relax, we're here to help you save more. So, what are you waiting for? Take advantage of this limited time offer through September the 30th. Apply now and enjoy peace of mind knowing you've made a smart move that works for your wallet and for you. Visit foundersfcu.com or stop by a local office today. Promotional rate expires 6 months from the date of the transaction. Then effective APR of 13.25% to 17.9% will apply. For more details, visit foundersfcu.com/cc. Membership qualification required.
I'm attorney Jim Corbett. I'm not a case manager. I'm a lawyer for over 35 years. I don't charge 40% for your injury in your rec case or any on-the-job injury. Call 803-765-2968 and ask for Jim Corbett or email me, jim@jimcorbettattorney.com, for the experience of a lawyer handling your injury case. Jim Corbett, 803-765-2968. Jim@jimcorbettattorney.com. Put 35 years of experience to work on your injury case.
Back here on Sports Talk Media Network, all across the fine state of South Carolina. Don't forget to log on and participate in this week's poll question up on our Twitter page at SC Sports Now. And the question brought to you by Larry Lucas Insurance. Call Larry at 803-799-1998 for all of your insurance needs. Does the public have the right to know the details of revenue sharing pay-for-play deals between schools and athletes? 73% of the respondents saying absolutely we do because we're pumping money in there. 27% saying no, that's not the case. You don't need to know. So you can log on and let your opinion be known up on our Twitter page at SC Sports Now and also on our website at SportsTalkSC.com. Good stuff up there today, including we posted the interview we did last night with Chris Blair from LSU, the radio play-by-play voice of the Tigers, previewing the upcoming matchup with the Clemson Tigers at the end of August. And don't forget, next week, live coverage of SEC Media Days here on Sports Talk and also on our website and social media platforms as well. We'll get to the freshman question of the night in just a little while. My guess is Josh Cohen is going to be carrying either an Xbox or a PlayStation over to his dorm room in Columbia. And if so, he's going to be playing EA Sports College Football 26, right, my friend?
Well, you know, it's funny. I played last year. I'm not going to get it this year. It's $100, really? Waste of money. It's going to be the same thing until they get the ongoing lawsuits and the all the federal court cases. I'm not going to play it. They don't have that in the game yet, so we'll wait until that happens.
Well, Josh, I can tell
so
you.
You want the Supreme Court in the game?
Yes, that's the whole point.
Okay.
I like the NIL, yes.
I did have a friend, and I'm of the age that I grew up, as a teenager playing the original game in NCAA back when it broke out. But I had a friend who said, man, they got to get like bagmen in this. You got to be dirty recruiting. I'm not going to be able to win here at Kentucky if win big at Kentucky using that team if I can't recruit. But Josh, I will tell you that I just read a review, and it said that this year it's night and day. That this year's version is much, much better than last year's.
Well,
they smoothed out the gameplay.
One thing that they have not fixed is Shane Beamer's face. Shane Beamer's face, if you've seen his face in the video game, it looks nothing like him. Same with Dabo.
Have you seen Dabo?
Yeah.
Dabo's just as bad, if not worse.
They're the exact. They're terrible. It's like I could draw a better picture. So if you need my help, you can pay me a couple extra dollars. I I could probably draw it for you. But anyways, what I wanted to talk about is the ratings for the players. They on their website, they have the top 100 players on the game, and we have 2 from South Carolina and 5 from Clemson. Lenora Sellers is ranked 91, Cade Klubnik at 92, and Dylan Stewart for the Gamecocks 94. Kind of going all over the place. TJ Parker for Clemson 95, Peter Woods 94. Avion Terrell, 92. Blake Miller, 92. And like I said, Cade Klubnik at 92. Honestly, those are a weird way to rank the players. But
what do you mean?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like there are more Gamecocks, but that should be on the list in the top 100.
Well, Josh, who would they be?
That's a good question.
Don't mumble. Tell us.
I want to go around. I want to move to another thing because we only have a couple seconds. But I looked up also for Chris. I looked up. There's no Coastal Carolina players on the list either.
Yeah, I'm not terribly surprised about that. The entirely new team, and so I'm not sure they've got now. I'm surprised. Jamison Tucker, one of the wide receivers, is not on that list. And the fascinating thing is about the rankings, and that's their overall. That's their speed, strength, agility, everything.
Yeah, that's their overall.
TJ Parker would be the number one guy between the group. Peter Woods right behind Dylan Stewart. So you've got the 2 quarterbacks that are sitting around 90 in terms of their overall, and no running backs from either team.
Right.
Listed inside that grouping that Josh pointed out. Now, from Clemson's perspective, that would be Adam Randall and company. And then from Carolina's perspective, it would be Oscar Attaway.
But Chris, I can tell you this. The top 10 rated freshmen on EA Sports, number of the freshmen, Clemson running back Gideon Davis is number 2, rated 83 overall.
Hey, and players got a raise.
A starter
players
at that
got
position
a raise
before the season's done.
They got $600 this year for being in the game.
Good for them.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Thunderstorms possible until about midnight or so. The low temperature dips down to 73. Tomorrow it's more the same, more clouds and sunshine. A high of 93 and a 40% chance of some afternoon and evening downpours. For Saturday, same pattern. Not bad early, but the storms in the afternoon. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
It's painting season in the Midlands, and Southern Palmetto Painting and Renovation sets the tone for inspired living. Watch your home change from ordinary to outstanding with colors that liven every wall and craftsmanship you can trust. Michael and his team are fully licensed, bonded, and insured. They care for every detail inside and out of your home. Let's give your home the style and care it deserves. Call 922-5615. Southern Palmetto Painting and Renovations, where every project reflects pride.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters in Washington. A retired nurse, her son, and a family friend say they were fortunate to survive last week's flash floods in Texas that killed more than 100 people, including many summer campers. Jane Towler says she got a call at about 4 a.m. last Friday from a friend in a neighboring cabin, telling her the Guadalupe River was rising quickly and to get to safety. Towler ran next door to warn her son, their family friend, and the woman's young daughter. A federal judge in New Hampshire says he'll certify a class action lawsuit, including all children who will be affected by President Trump's executive order ending birthright citizenship, and issue a preliminary injunction blocking it. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 192 points. The Nasdaq rose 19. More details at srnnews.com.
Sometimes timing is everything, and I've been talking the talk about Broker Solar for a good minute. I'm a fan. I've had some Point listeners ask me about Broker Solar. They're on the fence because of what's going on in D.C. Now that the politics have settled, we know what's in that big, beautiful bill. We know the federal tax credit for getting solar power at your home. It's going to end in December, so the clock is ticking. You want that 30% federal tax credit, believe me. So we need to get Ken out to your place before they cut it. Plus, you'll still get a 25% tax credit here in South Carolina. So yeah, timing is everything. 30% federal, 25% state credit. Are you kidding me? That's a big part of the cost already knocked out for solar power. It's time for you to take control of your own power bill. Like I said, timing's everything. Now is the time. Online, it's brokersolar.com, or just call Ken and his team, 807-7417. That's 807-7417, brokersolar.com.
What's better than getting the best Wagyu and Hereford beef anywhere in these parts and getting it delivered to your door? How about knowing you're still supporting local farmers in Saluda over at H&J Cattle, where tradition meets quality? Visit HandJCattle.com. Place your order for $50 or more, get free delivery in Richland or Lexington County. Plus, Point listeners get 10% off your order. Enter keyword The Point as one word for your discount. HandJCattle.com.
Dave Ramsey here. Do you want your money to work for you rather than you working for your money? Go see my friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. They're not a mega bank and have been serving the Midlands since 1936, offering good old-fashioned customer service and free services. They'll look out for your financial well-being. With 14 locations, check them out today at palmettocitizens.org. Federally insured by the NCUA.
Hey y'all, it's Ted from Flight Deck Restaurant. We're introducing Friday Night Prime Rib Special. Our great chefs at Flight Deck Restaurant have created a great prime rib dinner special, which includes a 10-ounce slow-roasted certified Angus beef prime rib dinner, served with 2 sides of your choice for only $22.95. And if you mention we love Flight Deck, you get a free cookie or a soft drink with your meal. So come see us at Flight Deck Restaurant to enjoy a delicious slow-roasted prime rib dinner. While you're here, check out the new and improved arcade with over 33 games. We at Flight Deck Restaurant thank you, and God bless.
Do you crave growth for your business? That's where The Point comes in. Fran Halloran here. Kevin Cohen and the other local hosts like me have worked to create a space where listeners transform into family. Are you a local business aiming for the stars? You need to get with Kevin and let him help create an individualized blueprint for your growth using the influential stage of The Point Radio. Reach out directly at 563-8558. Teaming with The Point, make this year extraordinary.
The Sports Talk Recruiting Report is sponsored by Seawell's Catering.
Time now for the Seawell's Recruiting Report. Seawell's family and staff can handle all of your planning and catering needs at their facility at 1125 Rosewood Drive, where they can come to your venue. Visit SeawellsCateringSC.com for menu options, but bear in mind, Seawell's closed tomorrow for a private event, but they will open back up next week. Just bookmark SeawellsCateringSC.com. Many of you know how to do that. Chris Bergen does not know how to do that. A clue. So we have to tell him that's why we do this. Yes. We have to tell him every night, SeawellsCateringSC.com. He said, what's that site again?
Yeah, I have to click the little star, right, in the search engine.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
You ought to hear me talk NASCAR, get technical in NASCAR. You'd really be impressed.
Top story tonight, overall and in recruiting, Clemson landed a quarterback commitment. As Chris Bergen noted at the top of the show, Clemson football has had it pretty good when it comes to quarterbacks from the state of Georgia. Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence, chief among them. The Tigers have gone back to one of their favorite spots to land another quarterback commitment. This is 2027 quarterback Kareem Hewley, 190-pounder from Gainesville High School. And if that rings a bell, it's because that is the alma mater of Deshaun Watson. Hewley announced his Clemson pledge via social media earlier today. In his sophomore season, Hewley had over 2,500 yards passing, 22 touchdowns to just 2 interceptions. And bear in mind, that was his sophomore season. Helped his Gainesville team to make the state playoffs. And again, that is the same program that developed Deshaun Watson. Hewley is the second Peach State player to commit to the Tigers for the 2027 class, joining Max Brown, the younger brother of Clemson linebacker Sammy Brown. The recruiting finish line for safety Blake Stewart of College Park, Georgia, is this Sunday. For most of the battle, Clemson has been viewed as the favorite. Stewart made his official visit with the Tigers on the weekend of May 30th when most of their top targets were in. Clemson planted the seed with Stewart that weekend that he's going to be a major part of their plans, and he would flourish under the direction of safeties coach Mickey Kahn. The question now is, did that message take hold, and will it be enough to hold off Michigan, Miami, and Vanderbilt? And there you have it. That is your recruiting report tonight. Truncated version of the recruiting report presented by Seawells. Visit SeawellsCateringSC.com for menu options. Visit their facility next week. Again, closed tomorrow, but next week, Seawells back open to the public, 1125 Rosewood Drive in Columbia.
And if you want any of the other recruiting news, don't forget to check out our website at SportsTalkSC.com, and always search on Twitter. Use ST Recruiting. Used to be the hashtag ST Recruiting, but evidently hashtags have gone the way of the pound sign. Josh is wondering, what am I talking about?
Away. They've gone away.
They've gone away. That's very good.
We still don't understand why, but they have gone away. So don't hashtag it, just ST Recruiting, and that'll take you to all of the stuff that Phil puts up there and keeps us all abreast as to the hotbeds of recruiting all around the state of South Carolina. All right, 888-898-2525. If you'd like to join us on the program, you can tweet us anytime, 803, or text us rather, 803. You can tweet us as well at SC Sports Now, but text us at 803-900-4847. Some of the other news notes from the day that we have not had a chance to get to thus far. Found this one fascinating because this story is not going to go away until they get some sort of resolution and ruin one of the greatest sporting events of all time. But according to ESPN.com, the committees for men's and women's Division I basketball met this week to discuss possible expansion of the March Madness tournaments, but made no immediate decisions or recommendations. The still viable outcomes include the tournaments remaining at 68 teams or expanding the fields to either 72 or 76 in advance of the 2026 or 2027 championships. Dan Gavitt, the NCAA Senior Vice President of Basketball, said in a statement Thursday, the idea of expanding the tournament picked up steam in the spring when NCAA President Charlie Baker said it could add value and that he'd like to see the issue resolved in the next few months. They have mentioned probably need to have something in place in August if they want to expand it this season. He said the NCAA has had, quote, good conversations with TV partners CBS and Warner Brothers, whose deal runs through 2032 at the cost of around $1.1 billion a year. If you've ever wondered where the NCAA gets its revenues, since it does not control college football, as we have seen, that's it right there. Smitty, that is their cash cow. So why would you want to take your cash cow out and hit it between the eyes with a sledgehammer and just continue to ruin it by adding more and more mediocre Power 4 teams, which is exactly what this is going to do. And I have no reason. The only thing I can understand on the women's side is they want to be equal to the men. There is absolutely no reason for the women to expand any further than they already are. There aren't 68 good women's basketball teams in the country now. We don't need to add 76 of them to the tournament.
While we're talking about it, I'd like to go back to 64 teams.
You and me both. I would have no problem with that whatsoever.
I can't stand these first four games like a hanging chad at the edge of our brackets every year. And you made this point yesterday. It's only going to encourage inclusion of middling big conference teams. And I know, and who was it you said that was arguing against that? Seth Davis from Sports Illustrated?
Yes. He said it, well, obviously it's an inarguable, he used the term unarguable fact. I'm not even sure that's grammatically correct. But he used the term saying that you obviously will have more mid-major teams. I'd love for him to come and explain to the Sun Belt and the Atlantic Sun and Conference USA, well, Conference USA, a bad example because it's a pretty good basketball league, but the SoCon and the Big South. You're going to tell me that the Big South is not going to be a one-bid league moving forward? Now, that's an inarguable fact that it will stay a one-bid league.
Well, we actually already have an example of this. They expanded from 64 to 68, And they didn't expand, and all that happened was they kept the number of at-large bids the same so that the big teams could keep the ACC and SEC and Big 12 and Big 10 could just get their teams in, and then they just added some other teams. And here's what my problem has always been, and it's not talked about because Chicago State is just not going to have a big enough fan base or media conglomerate behind it that cares about what happens to them. But some of these teams, what do they dream about doing? Oh, if I go to the NCAA tournament, I could get on the floor with a Duke. I could get on the floor against Michigan. I could be the one to play Gonzaga and Seattle, Washington in the first round, and maybe we're the ones. My team's going to be one of the ones like Virginia was knocked off that will pull off the miracle. And yet here they are. No, sorry, you're going to Dayton to play a team you might have even played in non-conference. You're going to play a team from the Atlantic Sun in Dayton, Ohio, in a game almost no one will watch or care about, and you could lose that game to a pretty good team by 2 points, and you're going home. So I hope that's your Cinderella story. I hope you really enjoyed your trip to March Madness. You were the only two teams you got to see.
And see, that has been the biggest sticking point I've had with the expansion of the tournament to this point, to add in the play-in games, because if you win your conference tournament, you did exactly what the NCAA told you had to do to get into the tournament. You won the automatic bid from your league. You should be in the tournament. You shouldn't have to play another game on top of that to get into the tournament. Don't tell me they're in the tournament. If your name's not in there in permanent ink in the first round, you're not in the tournament. They should reserve the play-in games for the bottom 8 Power 4 teams. The big boys who barely got in, who snuck in based on name recognition alone. North Carolina this past season. Anybody else with that resume is not in the tournament. But you put them in, you make them go earn their way into the tournament. You cannot have a team that won its conference tournament, won the championship for its league, then have to win another game just to get into the tournament. It has always bothered me. And you can't tell me with a straight face that's a fair way to do that.
Nope, I completely agree. And we'll let it go with this, but I just want to put real names to the examples we're talking about, which is, say, last year, American University played Mount St. Mary's in one of the first 4 games, okay? They played in Dayton, Ohio on March 18th, all right? And Mount St. Mary's defeated American University. So American University goes home. But if you thought if this was a real tournament and you thought any of these teams had a chance to go on and win the championship, consider this. Mount St. Mary's would have to win 7 games to go and win. And you might say, well, of course, that's not going to happen and that's silly. Yes, it is. Well, let me use a different example and tell you that also I'm looking for the other 16 seed here. I don't even know who that is, but so I'll use a different one. How about Norfolk State? Well, why does Norfolk State only have to win 6 games, but American University or Mount St. Mary's would have to win 7? What is the difference between those two teams? Or St. Francis of Pennsylvania or Alabama State would have to win 7 games. I'm saying that we all know they're not going to win the NCAA tournament. We all know that. Guess what? None of the other teams you'd add to make it 76 are going to win the NCAA tournament either. So why are we having the discussion? And the answer to all your questions is money.
Exactly. That's the answer. Any question you want to ask now regarding collegiate athletics, there's your answer. No matter what it is, I can steer you right back to Ben Franklin's. I was going to say George Washington's, but let's be fair. They're not really concerned about the $1 bill at that level. Heck, I'm not even sure they're worried about the Benjamin Franklins anymore either. You have a bunch of them.
No, they're worried about it. Josh will tell you they're worried about the Bitcoin and the Ethereum. That's what they're worried about.
So we will see. It's coming. Just get ready for it. It is going to expand. There's just no doubt. It's just a shame because it's going to expand for the wrong reasons and expand incorrectly and just add more mediocre teams to what is a tremendous, tremendous event. Dumb way to decide a national championship. Most exciting postseason that we have, though, in my opinion.
Yes, and you're absolutely don't try to be happier than happy, right? We have the NCAA basketball tournament. We love it. We adore it. as you said, it drives, not only does it drive ratings, it produces tremendous revenue for the NCAA. NCAA powers that be, you did something right. You did something right, and it has been rolling along for 50 years, and it has been the best thing you have done. It is your glowing one shining moment, like the song that it plays. It is your one shining moment, and you now you're trying to screw it up.
Leave it alone. I said it's a dumb way to decide a national champion. There are rare occasions where the best team from the beginning of the season all the way through the end proves itself, like Florida did this year. But there are oftentimes it is just to determine the best team in March. So that's why I often say it's a dumb way to decide a national champion. But again, it's the most entertaining and probably best postseason we have until they blow it up to about 165 teams. And then we'll just start the tournament in early February and let it run for 2 months. As soon as football season is over, bam, right after the Super Bowl, that Monday will be the play-in games, and you'll have 18 play-in games to get into the tournament moving forward. All right, 888-898-2525. We'll sign out for one final timeout. We come back, wrap up some other news notes of the day. We also have the freshman question of the night. I think this is a good one because it actually is something I did today that I'm going to ask Josh if he's going to do moving into the fall. So we'll do all of that and put a lid on this Thursday edition of Sports Talk after this here on the Sports Talk Media Network all across the lovely state of South Carolina.
I'm attorney Jim Corbett. I'm not a case manager. I'm a lawyer for over 35 years. I don't charge 40% for your injury in your rec case or any on-the-job injury. Call 803-765-2968 and ask for Jim Corbett or email me, jim@jimcorbettattorney.com, for the experience of a lawyer handling your injury case. Jim Corbett, 803-765-2968. jim@jimcorbettattorney.com. Put 35 years of experience to work on your injury case.
Traveling can be the worst, especially when you can't find your favorite show. Well, don't worry. We've got the perfect way to keep up with everything happening in the Palmetto State when you're away from home. Just pull up the Chief Sports app on your mobile device, and you can listen live to Sports Talk.
All right, welcome in, everybody. Sports Talk Media Network.
So the next time you can't find us on one of our great radio affiliates, just log on to the Chief Sports app, the best way to stay connected with the Sports Talk Media Network.
You've put in the work for your education. The extra early, extra late, extra work. That's because you understand education opens doors to better pay, better opportunities, and a better you. Being educated about playing the lottery is no different. It helps you be a better player, one who knows when to play and when to take a rain check. The lottery's a game, so let's keep it fun. Learn more at sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
A couple other news nuggets before we close up shop here tonight. A couple of things, as Mike Morgan was talking about earlier on the program of Big 12 Media Days. Kenny Dillingham of Arizona State, who's sort of been in between the crosshairs, they are allegedly the reason that they no longer have a preseason media poll because Arizona State was picked towards the bottom of the Big 12 last year, ended up winning the league and advancing on to the quarterfinals of the college football playoff, but it evidently hurt them somehow. I don't know. But he went on to say that modern college football is summed up this way: to me, recruiting is dead, retention is alive. And Smitty, I don't know that I've heard a better quote come out of a media day session in a long, long time, because that is spot on.
It is. It is. I agree with that totally. Listen, the biggest thing that didn't happen this year in our state, the biggest thing that didn't happen was Lenore Sellers transferring. Mm-hmm. The fact that, now the news reports have come out that everyone was knocking on his door. They were calling his family. They were trying to lure him with money. And Lenore Sellers made the decision to stay with the University of South Carolina, even though last year they were not a college football playoff team. They were close, but they were not a college football playoff team. But that is how college football will be moving forward, is if somebody has a big year and surprises, somewhat with a team that may be surprising. Oh, we thought they were going to be we thought they were going to be on the outside looking in bowl season, and they're knocking down the door for a playoff spot. Well, then all those players are going to get calls from agents and boosters and bagmen across the country. And if you can keep them, Iowa State had talked about that. Their head coach talked about keeping his top 20 guys, all taking a pay cut by staying with him. That is the future of college football, and that was a tremendous quote. Retention is king now.
Corn and I had an argument, it's been months ago, about whether or not we should talk about and or post guys who went into the transfer portal John on our show, but transfer portal overall, but went into the portal John and then came back to their same program. And my point was, well, they didn't do anything. They didn't leave. They didn't transfer. They're still there. It's not a story. But I think I looked at it wrong, and I think he was right in saying, well, it actually is a pretty big deal. Let's take Lenore Sellers. Let's just use him for the example since you brought him up. Let's assume for a moment he went into the transfer portal, John, but then immediately came back out. It's a huge deal for South Carolina. That's more important to them than had they recruited a 5-star wide receiver for the 2026 class. They kept their best player regardless. So you're right. I think we probably should change the Seawell's recruiting reports to the Seawell's retention report, because, moving forward, I think that's going to be immediately the most important thing. Do you keep your best players? Can you keep them happy? Maybe not so much at South Carolina and Clemson. They normally seem to have, for the most part, do a pretty good job of that. But you want to talk like a place at Coastal, or at even at Wofford and some of the smaller schools at the FCS level and the D2 level, like at Newberry. If Newberry had been able to keep Mario Anderson and not have him transfer to South Carolina, how much better would they have been with him? Because we saw what kind of impact he had for the Gamecocks. So losing him was probably a bigger deal than anybody Todd Knight recruited to replace him.
Chris, another example right there. You just mentioned Coastal Carolina. Grayson McCall transferred to NC State. And, of course, people – that is less of a story now because he didn't get to complete it, having got been injured almost right away at NC State, suffering another concussion. But if Coastal Carolina could have retained him, maybe their fortunes would have been slightly different. And, of course, you hold that spot for longer and develop quarterbacks behind them and all that. And I think we are talking around something. Josh told us during the break he's not a fan of NIL. We know that Phil was not, which is why it's still talked about to this level on this show.
I didn't notice that from him.
Okay.
Where did you hear that?
All right, where did you hear that? But I think as everyone has come to the level of, it's kind of like you go through the 12 steps of grief and eventually you get to acceptance. As we have come to accept this new landscape, or started to accept it and understand this new landscape of college football, I think what college football fans yearn for as much as anything, I think most of them have gotten over the guys are getting money part.
Right.
I think it's more about, I don't want them playing for my favorite team, and then you have to go and renegotiate like they're a free agent in the NFL, and then you've got to find money to keep them. I think what the NCAA could do, which they won't, but what the NCAA could do is you could deal with this in a multi-year fashion, because what do you want as a college football program? You want the credit for seeing things that no one else saw. I saw a player that was being under-recruited. This is a coach speaking. He was being under-recruited. I told him I thought he worked in our system. I thought he could come to us. You can't play at Alabama. You can't play at Georgia, but you can play with us, and we'll have a role for you, and I know just what to do with you, young man. And he comes in. He has a great season in whatever, playing flanker in a special system. And what you don't want is then Alabama and Georgia coming in, throwing money at him just to get him away from you. That doesn't feel fair to anyone, any sports fan, any football coach, because that coach deserves to be able to stay with that player 1, 2, 3 years, 2, 3, 4 years together, because that was he's the one that helped change that young man's life. And those fans deserve the opportunity to see him grow up, change, develop on their team. And I think this whole thing about it's the transfer portal combined with NIL that is poisoning the college experience for fans.
Well, and as Josh pointed out correctly, if they get into the transfer portal and come back, we've named that a clog of the portal, John.
And if they successfully make it through, it's called a flush. That's why we have the infamous. That's why we have the infamous flush. Should I go ahead and give one? Yeah, we'll go ahead and give one. Yeah.
So we flushed them out of the program. So as Coach Dillingham pointed out, the most important part is retention, not recruiting. All right, it is time before we wrap up the show tonight for the ever-popular, never-duplicated, often imitated freshman question of the night. And this occurred to me earlier today because, guys, I bought 2 new fish for my saltwater aquarium today.
I didn't even know you had one.
I do, and it's all clownfish now, and they're not happy with one another, so I may have to pull some of the guys out of there.
I bought 2 fish today, too. They are defrosting currently in the refrigerator.
But no, if you're interested in saltwater aquariums, I will go ahead and tell you it is a labor of love. It is a difficult process to get it to the point where you don't kill off the fish. I did a lot of that early in my career because I never could get the salinity in the water correct, or I couldn't get the temperature correct, or I put them in there too soon, and it was just a mess. But I've actually got the tank viable now, so I'm happy with that. But it occurred to me for the freshman question of the night, does Josh Cohen, as he heads over to USC in the fall, do you plan to have a pet at USC?
You know, I thought about it. I thought about bringing my dog, but that probably wouldn't work. They probably wouldn't allow
probably
that.
Can't bring your dog.
My 80-pound pit bull probably would not do well on campus.
80-pound pit bull, wow.
Yeah, you guys. Yeah, I have a pit bull. Yeah, but no, I mean, I don't plan to have a pet. I will never own a fish. I have had a fish before. We actually owned 10 fish. And we had 3 mini African dwarf frogs in a tank, but and they swam around. But no, I don't plan to have a fish. I do not plan to have a pet at all.
You know what you should do? This would make you the most popular person in your dorm. Get a parakeet.
Oh, that would probably be great. I can only imagine in the middle of the night just. That'd be terrible.
That's it, Smitty. That's what he needs. Since he's going to Carolina, he's got to have a rooster. Be perfect. There's your alarm clock, too. Your built-in alarm. You could have a rooster, wake the entire dorm up at 5 o'clock every morning.
You're a Florida fan, go all in. Take a baby gator into the dorm.
Be a good idea. Or both. Both.
Good stuff. Folks, enjoy the rest of your Thursday. See you back here tomorrow.